Hello and welcome to Primetime Football. Second to last matchup, Patriots versus the Chargers of this wildcard round. Patriots are returning towards the playoffs and kind of unluckily so, even in their absence, Justin Herbert could not surface with first playoff win. By the way, it's kind of crazy when you look at Justin Herbert doesn't have a playoff win, TJ Watt doesn't have a playoff win. That's crazy. But that's kind of my storyline, because either him or Drakemaye will get there first. And I feel like everyone who is defending Justin Herbert is going to have a tough time on the internet if yet another QB gets their first win prior to Justin. Is it fair? No, internet is not a fair place. And especially here, I feel like when I stand on Justin, like compared to public, it's like I would be more critical of him in the past, where I feel like he was still like a tier 2 guy, but there were definitely mistakes to be like dissect from his game. But this year, it really felt like a lot of people, because they look at the numbers, are like, oh god, Justin doesn't have a grade of the year. And my opinion is just the contrary. Like, he's having a special year, man. In true definition of MVP, I think he deserves to be in the voting pretty damn high, because this offense does not function without him at all. Like, they are predicated to great offensive line. They lost Joey Alt, they lost Rashawn Slater, and their offensive line is a mess. They lost another guys. Like, they cannot help themselves in terms of running the ball, the pass protection, in terms of pressures that Justin is like getting there in historical percentages. So like, they are not anyway sniffing playoffs without Justin having really good year. Trust me. On the other side, of course, Jake is new, young, he is perhaps for some frontrunner for MVP. Everybody wants to talk about Jake. And yeah, I could, because when you look at the draft last year, I was like Drake over Jaden Daniels all day long. I love that pick for the Patriots. I'm so glad that I was wrong on Jaden, because he had a special season. But I was at least right on Drakemaye, because he is freaking delivering. And I feel like because, again, he is this young, new kind of a toy, Patriots are like a huge story, beating the Bills in terms of division, going from like 4-13 to 13-4, etc., etc. Sometimes you overlook some mistakes that Drakemaye is doing, and he is doing them. Like, don't kid yourself. He's not having like a year in which he's the best of the best ever or anything like that. Which like, it feels like somebody wants to talk about him in that area. But I think it's good, and that's what scares me about the future of the Patriots, because I think when I look at Drake, I really see a guy that in a way doesn't have a conscience, but is able to learn from his mistakes. He doesn't feel timid after making a mistake, but at the same time, he processed that mistake, and he rarely does them twice, the same one. And he is still obviously developing, like it's his first proper starting season. And that freaking scares me, because his talent, he can absolutely be in that top creme de la creme next to Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes and these guys next year. He absolutely can. And having that for 3 more years on a cheap deal, beware of the Patriots. Definitely beware. Where like last year when I was talking about Jaden, and this year what I appreciate the most was like he was poised. Like, you couldn't say if it was a blowout game or it was, you need to deliver a touchdown or we are out of the playoffs. You could not tell on him. On Drake, I don't think he's necessarily that poised, but I like that he's not timid after making mistakes, and he learns. And of course, he delivers. So, yeah, very special young man. Now, let's talk about the matchups in this game. And yeah, we started with Drake and Justin. Let's talk about the grades I have. I up Jake towards an amazing starter. Some would be like, why he's not elite? Well, for me, like the sample size is just too small to give him that elite status, but he's definitely on a trajectory. I think Justin was really sniffing that elite category for me in some parts of the season. He had some down weeks, so like, yeah, he's like touching it. He's not quite there yet, but playoff run could definitely make him an elite. With Drake, I guess like if they won a Super Bowl on his shoulders, I would have to put him there, but still in second year, pretty much first year starting, being a tier 2 guy in my eyes. Yeah, what more do you want? These guys are just amazing, and I just wish that Justin had a better cast around him in terms of protection, so we could definitely enjoy this matchup much more. Now, one thing that I want to talk about with not necessarily next matchup, because I would like to talk about offensive line versus defensive line of the offensive line of the Chargers versus defensive line of the Patriots, because I feel like this is a matchup in which Chargers can actually win. I don't think them going against Texans, perhaps against Denver, Jaguars, are there. I feel like those are hugely disadvantaged matchups for the Chargers, where your offensive line is not able to keep up with the talent that defensive line of the other team had, especially against the Texans. I think that's the worst matchup for them with Daniel Hunter and Will Anderson. Chargers, you probably are rooting for the Steelers to just not be able to draw on to the Texans if you win. Obviously, if you lose, you don't care. But when I look at the defensive line of the Patriots, it doesn't necessarily scare me. And I don't think they are the team that can take the biggest advantage of the problems that the Chargers have. Now, towards offensive weapons, I still think in true dropback passes, the offensive line talent of the Chargers is going to crumble prior to defensive line of the Patriots. So you need to run the ball. And Marlon Hampton should be back for this game. Not necessarily 100%, but he should be back. And quite frankly, he delivered on a first round hype when he was able to play, given the situation that this line is in. And they need him to be that guy that they drafted in the first round and not make this fast in which Justin has to throw 40 to 50 times a game. Because in that, with Christian Gonzalez that we will talk about later, I don't think you win. On the other side, Stephon Diggs. And that's a very interesting character for this game and overall. Because in a year where you just... I had not much expectation of this. I didn't think this was a great signing. Because I had questions about the maturity of Stephon Diggs. How he's this diva type of wide receiver, not a leader. How he might overcome GMaty in terms of feed me the ball or I will just make a tantrum. He was exactly the opposite. He was a great leader of this team. He definitely is to be thanked for drakemaye's development and overall the weapons that they have overplaying their status prior to the year. But a week prior to the playoffs, there is some charges against Stephon Diggs. How much that's going to influence him, how much that potentially influences the locker room, especially if there is a guy you want to follow and then you hear some accusations, you might crumble with that. It's not necessarily fair because sometimes the charges are trumped up, but you obviously have to think, what if they are actually true? How much influence this has on the locker room, on the guys that are following Stephon Diggs, and overall on his state of mind. If I had accusations that, let's say, I knew that there was some truth to that, and I was no, I have to put this aside to focus on this game, I'm not sure I could. So, I'm not blaming Stephon or accusing him. I'm always on the side of innocent till proven guilty. I think that's clear from my stand. At the same time, I'm not saying this has zero effect on psyche of Stephon, of people in the room. And again, I'm not close to the case. So I just wonder what is it going to be in terms of, especially if things don't go necessarily that well, will it crumble? I believe not, because they have Mike freaking Vrabel, but there is a chance that I felt week 15, week 16, when I was praising Stephon, I didn't feel like that chance was there. Now, for the last matchup, it's about defensive playmaker in terms of Derwin James, and like I said, the defensive line of the Patriots does not scare me. Even though Harold Landry had a better year than I expected, it's still he's a good number 2 pass rusher. And so, on the edge, especially on the edge, perhaps there's he's a decent number 2 from the edge. And that's where the majority of the struggles are for the Chargers. Like, I'm not saying Patriots obviously have some talent on the interior, but that is where like the Chargers offensive line is less injured. So they are more prone to be vulnerable against teams like Texans, who have obviously Will Anderson and Daniel Hunter from the edge. Harold Landry, I don't think he takes full advantage of what whatever tackle is going to play for the Chargers. On the other side, Derwin James. Here I want to talk about how I appreciate Jesse Minter's defense, because Derwin and Khalil Mack, age like what, 35, 36, something like that. Those are the two guys that they have now, like creme de la creme. Other than that, there is a bunch of guys, and they still make this thing work. Chargers defense is one of the better ones in the league. And that's a huge credit to Justin Minter. That's what he's probably right now front runner for the position of Baltimore head coach. But I think in this matchup, especially against drakemaye, you just will give up big plays. I don't think you necessarily are stopping this offense like to like 15 to 20 points. I do expect them to score at least like 23, 25 or like 24 to make it a nice NFL number. So I do expect that for Chargers to be able to like give Justin a fair shot to win this game is Omarion Hampton's running and Derwin James with some difference making plays. Whether it's like huge tackles for loss, huge sacks because he is a blitz threat, or forced fumbles, peanut punching, or even interception. This is a guy to look at. At the end of the day, I actually feel like it's going to happen for Justin. I feel like the matchup is favorable enough, or not unfavorable enough, for the Chargers to be able to do it. And like overall, there feels a little bit more tension that I would love for the Patriots and drakemaye in his first playoff game. But hell, I'm excited to see this guy slinging it.